Hello and welcome back, adventurers. Sit back, get comfy, and let me finish our exploration of Souragne with its best and worst sides. Port d'Allure is Souragne's largest town, located inside the Elhor Bay. People say the town of Port d'Allure got its name centuries ago, from the first boat to moor there, the Elhor. Many slippery wooden quays are found along the port, each hosting small fishing boats. Many more boats are seen on the muddy beaches around the bay near Old Cypress Way. Many of the inhabitants of Port d'Allure survive primarily by fishing, but most look sunbaked, exhausted and hungry. I do not think that the sea is generous, judging from the daily catch, but at least those people are free from the Plantations work. The town is very noisy, especially after the sun's peak time. The Souragnes are an unusually loud people, whether happy, sad or angry. Many of them are crippled and get a few coins by being beggars. In fact, there's nothing close to middle class. You're either senior or you're poor, and the difference in status is unmistakable. Most houses of Port d'Allure are adorned with painting or stone engraving. Most of this represents serpents, alligators or other marsh animals, or necromantic themes, or the ever-present Lord of the Dead, drawing with many variants. There are 3 parts to the small town, more or less arranged in concentric half-circles around the port. The port itself is a foul area, stinking of fish left rotting in the sun. This miasma doesn't seem to annoy the local people, and it is fairly animated, especially when a foreign trading boat arrives to haul merchandise. When such a boat is at the piers, many fishermen trade their usual hard work to offer their services as dockers. To hide merchandise from thieves, the bayfront is mainly comprised of stone or brick warehouses, rented or owned by the seigneurs for their trade with other domains. Each seigneur is responsible for the security of the merchandise, and the most valuable trade goods are watched by hired guards. East of the city is a slum called Past the Port. This is a dangerous place. Most people here carry a weapon, even if only passing through. Watch your pockets and don't go alone at night, especially if you look like you have heavy coin purse. Fights and other violence are frequent after nightfall. The cheap houses here are made of bricks with a mix of mud and marshes moss for mortar. Streets of Past the Port are narrow, filled with refuse and very dusty, or, if rain recently fell, unpleasantly muddy. Many establishments provide prostitution, gambling and cheap alcohol, and often all 3. Many of the bars and gambling houses do not even have a name. Cockfights are the most frequent gambling events, and in this neighborhood everything has a price, even human life. Le Coq Noir is the largest gambling house in the area. It is located at the northern edge of Past the Port, near the marsh. This gambling house, where most nights a game of high stakes of cards will be running until the small hours of the morning, is less dangerous and frequented by many seigneurs, wealthy locals and foreigners. This hotel is in fact the highest end of the Port of d'Allure, gambling rooms and closed house. Outside of the port and the adjacent slum, the town is nicer and the streets wider. The best buildings are made of stone or bricks and have 2 or 3 floors. Typically, a large balcony on wooden poles overhangs the street, and worked iron fences with vegetal patterns to divide the plots. While Souragne's history speaks of glory and riches, I think most of the buildings only show a pale reflection of what the town probably looked like in those better days. 3 notorious landmarks are found in this neighborhood: a dance hall, where many Souragnes come to dance and drink, the militia barracks, and the market square called La Marche. I have to say, the ambience of the dance hall is contagious, and even I was tempted to try the local dances. The market, or La Marche, is simply an open square in the town with an even stone flagging where people sell their goods, most of the time on a simple canvas on the floor. It is flanked by permanent little storefronts. Ready-to-eat food cooked on the street is also found in this market. Much can be found cheaply, and Souragnes do not eat sweets at a meal. It is not to their taste, and most cannot really afford it. A dry well occupies the center of the square. It has a sculpture of fishes led by an alluring half-woman, half-fish creature. I've been told this well has been dry for a very long time. And to be fair, it is an oddity, as every other well in the land has become polluted before it has a chance to run dry. For foreigners, the most interesting feature of the La Marche is the medicine counters, often located in the permanent shops around the square. Most are, at first glance, cheap charlatans, promising surprising feats with their medicinal paraphernalia. But if you ask around, several of the stern-looking old men and women selling their goods here are known to be benevolent Woodens. Their shops are full of blown glasses of all shapes and colors, containing dull or colorful liquids, and certain have plants or animal species inside it. Souragnes take great care of their dead relatives and mourn them for days. This mourning is anything but sad. Friends and family gather for this period. Food and alcohol are served by the family of the dead person. Stories about the dead are told, often wildly exaggerated, and the favorite games of the deceased are played. Still, I felt there was an angst in the air, and many fearful gazes were thrown at the corpse. An older Souragnian explained this latent fear. Occasionally, the lore recalled this person and the corpse rises during the morning. The family and friends have to let the zombie go without opposing, and, needless to say, this is an abrupt end to the joyful mourning. After this 4-day delay, the dead is placed in a wooden casket, and a joyful funeral parade brings the corpse to the cemetery. Nobody is anxious by then, and many pay their respects and thank the Lord of the Dead for letting the departed rest in peace. The dead cannot be buried, as water fills the hole at a depth of 4 feet, so the cemetery itself is walled. The richest put their dead at mausoleum of stone or brick, covered with white plaster. Many of these mausoleums are well decorated with ornaments and sculptures. These are very beautiful places, if somewhat morbid. The mausoleums are neatly designed to form streets within the cemetery. Thus, the locals often call it the City of the Dead. The working class usually cannot afford the construction of a mausoleum and put the wooden casket on a stone or brick floor, with the bricks piled on top of it. On Kemin Tristapas, in the middle of the City of the Dead, stands an old oak. This ancient tree is nicknamed Veil Branch by the Souragnes, and I witnessed it is sometimes even revered as a loa. The tradition by a supplicant of suspending his old clothes to the tree in the hope of getting an ancestor's good grace is also very ancient. The huge tree is covered with bits of clothes, old and new. A quick look at the plantations surrounding Port de Allure shows that agricultural work gives more results than fishing. A plantation belongs to the seigneurs, who are considered nobility in Souragne. All plantation main houses are luxurious places, where the success of the owner is made evident. Located behind cast iron portal entrances, the main house often sports large, tall white pillars at the front. Very different from the dull grey houses inside the town, the plantation ones are either painted spotless white or bright colors. The interiors are also very beautiful, with marbles, tapestries, ornate ceilings, and the ever-present worked iron, chandeliers, and large fireplaces. Plantations usually specialize in either sugar cane, tobacco, cotton, and fruits of farm animals. The exportable surplus is sold in part of the market in Port de Allure, but mainly to other lands merchants. Some plantation owners have recently capitalized on a new trend, a dark tea-like beverage called café. There are about 20 plantations in Souragne, half of them located around or near Port de Allure, and most of them are very successful, making their owner wealthy. One such plantation actually sprang a community around it. According to the local legend, the Seigneur Pierre de Tarascon founded this village 2 centuries ago. He needed workers for his plantation, so he gave them a place to live. Close to the marshes, this small village is built of poor-looking wooden houses. The Tarascon plantation is located east of the hamlet. It is now run by a cousin of Marcel Tarascon, the only member of the family who escaped the grisly fate of the sleepy village. The hamlet of Maurice de Tarascon is a quiet town, where during the afternoon an onlooker might feel this place is abandoned or forgotten. While empty during the day, I found it lively by the end of the afternoon. The most interesting bit of local color, I was told, was the licorice sticks that are known as bone rattle in this town. In the past, Maurice de Tarascon was some of the richest farmland and important plantations on the land. However, the last centuries have eroded the wealth and status of the inhabitants, and many avoid this locale as cursed. The famous event of 2 decades ago are just one of the many problems that have plagued the village, and it does not seem like the Lady Luck is helping them anytime soon. Thank you so much for your time, patient listeners. Colorful Souragne is definitely a place worth visiting, but maybe, just maybe, do not stay for too long. But for now, and always, be careful while crossing the mists.